wait. So, Merry Christmas to all of you. Very happy winters. I hope you're enjoying your holidays. And before beginning this video, I would like to give a shout out to this very person. His comment was very lovely. It literally made my day. And he has seen all of my subject specific skills videos which I've already posted. All the chapters are posted, so if you have not seen, please do go and see. Maybe the links are going to be down in the description box. And after seeing all the videos, he has scored a 49 out of 50. That is such a good marks. And the whole day after seeing that comment, I was so joyful. It was so good, and I want all of you to score this good marks. That's why I give so much effort in making my videos, and I make it in such a way so that you do not have to read the book again. Please, all of you, see the videos properly and secure very good marks. I would be so happy. And if you don't mind, then you can let me know your marks. It is a very happy moment for me. And this video is about the first chapter of employability skills, that is communication skills. The topics are discussed very in much detail, so you do not have to read the book again. You can skip reading the book and directly go to the exam. I'll try to post all the employability skills chapter before your board exams. So please stay tuned with my channel, and I'll not take much of your time. Let's go and start. First, we have to know what is communication. Communication comes from the Latin word communicare, which means to share. So communication means sharing of ideas, thoughts, feelings, information, ideas between two or more people so that the message is clearly understood. So communication is the process in which exchange of information happens in a meaningful way. Right? And it can be done through writing, speaking, email, gestures, signs and symbols, right? But keep this definition in your mind whenever it comes. Just put this, okay? Parts of communication, okay? You have three important parts of communication. First is transmission. Transmission means you're transmitting something, right? Transmitting something. So the sender, okay, there is a sender, right, who sends the message. So sender sends the message to the receiver using a medium in transmission process. The medium can be speaking, writing, emailing. Through this you can do the transmission process, right? Then comes the second step, which is listening. That means the receiver, he has received the message and he listens to that carefully to understand the message, because understanding the message is very crucial in a communication process, because if the message is not clearly understood, then it can create a misunderstanding. You have the third step, which is feedback, which means the receiver has got the information and the response sent by the receiver to the sender, so that the sender understands that, okay, my message has gone to the receiver and he has understood it. So feedback is very crucial in the communication process because it marks the completion of the communication process, right? If I am telling my friend that after you reach home, please text me back, but my friend is not texting me back, how will I know if she has reached home? Most of the friends, they keep you on scene and all. So now we come to learning objectives of effective communication. What are you aiming for learning in effective communication, right? So first is development of interpersonal skills. They are the skills or the abilities which are needed to communicate effectively or to build relationships with others effectively, to interact with people, to communicate with people formally or informally. So the skills needed to communicate with people formally or informally, they are called the interpersonal skills, and these skills, they help in building strong relationships, as I told you, at home, school, at your work. Then we have sending and receiving and understanding the message. So the sender, he must design the message clearly. The receiver, he must understand the message properly. Otherwise, there will be a communication gap, a misunderstanding, which will surely not create a very long-lasting relationship. Third is expressing effectively with maximum efficiency. That means That means what the information that you're trying to impart or that you're trying to tell to your audience, that should be told in a very crisp manner, in a short manner, without stretching it long. With maximum efficiency, you have to express yourself. Avoid using unnecessary words, filler words like like that. Okay, so you have to avoid using unnecessary filler words. You have to be precise, clear, and meaningful. You have to use facial expressions, hand gestures like this. You have to maintain eye contact with the audience, and you have to also improve your body posture. If I'm sitting like this, you won't be able to understand, right? So I have to maintain a body posture, facial expressions, gestures, right? Communication cycle. Communication cycle means it explains how the message it moves from the sender to the receiver, and then from the receiver again back to the. There are certain elements of communication cycle. First is sender. Sender means we all know, like it's the person who initiates the message, who starts the conversation. Then you have message. Message means the information or the idea that the sender is trying to impart to the receiver. That is the message. Now the next step is encoding. Encoding means the message that you have in your head, you have to put it into a meaningful way so that the receiver can understand your message carefully. So you have to structure the message based on the receiver's understanding. You have to put your thoughts into a proper way. You have to structure your message in a proper way. If I'm explaining a very complex idea to all of you, I have a message in my head. I have to convert that complex idea into simpler words so that you can understand. So I have to encode it. And this process of encoding, it can be done using words, symbols, diagrams, or actions. Then fourth is communication channel. It's the medium through which the message is sent. It can be over internet, speaking, writing, phone call, email, all of that. Then you have receiver. Oh my god, my PPT closed. Then you have receiver. Receiver means the person who receives the message from the sender, right? Then we have decoding. For sender, if you remember, it was encoding. Whatever the message was in the head of the sender, that was encoded. Now decoding. That means receiver will interpret and understand the message. That process is called decoding. Then you have response or feedback. I've already talked about this. It is the reply or the reaction of the receiver. Feedback shows if the message is understood carefully, marks the end of the communication cycle. That is feedback, and it can be positive, negative, immediate, or delayed, as I say. So if you take an example of the communication cycle, for example, classroom teaching, then the sender, it will be suppose a teacher, and the message that is in the head of the teacher, suppose importance of an ecosystem, and then encoding will happen. That means an explanation will happen using, teacher will explain using text, diagrams, and symbols. The channel, communication channel, will be the classroom. There will be receiver, who will be the students, and then will be decoding. That means the student understand the lesson in their own way. There is a feedback. That means the teacher asks the students where they have doubt, did they understand. The teachers ask questions, the students answer, right? So that kind of a feedback. So the feedback it will help the teacher to understand if the students have understood the concept correctly or not. Then you have different methods of communication. First, it is face to face. Face to face means which is a part of verbal communication. That means done using words. Verbal communication means the communication done using words. So face to face is a form of verbal communication. The sender and the receiver both are physically present in front of each other. Both can observe each other's facial expressions, gestures, body language. What do you think is the advantage of this? Advantage is the message reachable to the receiver with minimum disturbance. That means we were physically present in front of each other. Sender and receiver are physically present in front of each other. So if the sender has any doubt, he can say to the receiver there and there. The receiver has a problem, he can say to the sender whenever required. So with minimum distortion or minimum disturbance, the message is communicated and immediate feedback is received from the receiver You can get examples like this, two teachers explaining a concept to the students in the class. Online, if you do video call with someone, that is also face-to-face communication only. And the second type you have is email. Email means it's a form of written digital communication, and this is also a form of verbal communication because words are used here. It's not like if I'm speaking only, that is verbal communication. No, written digital communication, if words are used, then it is verbal communication. And this is also, it is easy, it is fast also, right? If I'm sending an email, it will go within few seconds to the person if you have a good internet, of course. And then it is cost effective as well. In one email you can attach multiple accounts, and you can send to many people at one time. If the people are living in different locations, to them also you can send at once. Then you have notices and poster, which is a form of visual communication. That means using pictures and all. Okay, so when the message, it needs to be communicated with a large number of people. Posters, they attract with their, like, they're colorful, right? Colorful, there are quotes, there are big fonts, bold fonts. So using these images, colors and all, posters, they attract attention. So that is why it's used for large number of people, so that more customers enter a brand. Mostly it is used for brand work, campaigns like say no to plastic. Business meetings, which is a very formal, like business meetings, it's a very formal and interactive communication where two or more people participate. It's a discussion basically. If you want to choose the right method, what you have to think of, firstly your target audience. Do you need a small audience? You want to talk with one person, a large number of people? And then you have to think about the cost. And you have to select the type of information that you send. Is it like, do you want to advertise for your brand? Then you go with some visual communication like notice and poster. Then you have urgency or priority. If you have to send the message now and now, then you cannot use a notice and poster. When do you know that people will get it, people will read it? So you send by an email or something like that. So you have to know the urgency or priority. So now we actually come to three types of communication, okay, which is verbal communication, non-verbal communication and visual communication. Okay, I've already given you hints about these in the previous sub methods. Verbal communication means where words are used to convey messages. As I said, it can be spoken also, it can be written also, right? If you say about oral communication, which is a type of verbal communication only. Oral communication, it involves speaking and messages are delivered using spoken words. It can be face-to-face communication using devices also you can do, right? Then you have written communication, which includes written or typed words. Okay, if you see, I have a laptop here. I have a laptop here. If I type it here, this is going to be written communication, but it is also a type of verbal communication. Okay, so there's a little bit of limitation, that is, it needs good vocabulary and grammar. If you do not have good vocabulary and grammar and you write total nonsense, then who will understand? Receiver needs to understand your message. So that is one drawback of written communication, but other than that, it is good. Now there are different forms of verbal communication. Those are the types, that it can be spoken or written. But these are the forms of verbal communication that I'm going to talk about now. First is interpersonal communication. That means it's a 1:1 communication between two people. Okay, so there is less chance of misunderstanding. If there are two people, no one is there to interfere. More the people, more the chaos, right? And it is direct also, it's very personal also. So at PTM, in PTM what happens? Student teacher communication happens, that is interpersonal communication. Two friends are working on a group project, gossiping is going on, so that is also interpersonal communication. Now we come to small group communication, which includes a small number of people. You can, from the name also you can see it's a small group of people communicating with each other, so that is interactive, right? In a classroom, it is an interactive session. Student is asking question, one person is telling the answer, the other is counter questioning it. So like this, it is an interactive session and it is often formal. In a classroom, you can't crack silly jokes, right? So it's often formal, like a group discussion in a class, staff meetings, board meetings, principal meeting teachers. And then you have public communication, where one person addresses a larger audience. Like you've seen TED Talks, that is public communication. It requires a lot of confidence. You can't just go to the stage and fumble like an idiot. Annual day celebration, then you have inter-school debate, that is also public communication, right? Then you have advantages of verbal communication. Advantages, what can be there? When we are doing face-to-face communication, all this type of communication, clear and precise messages are delivered. There is quick exchange of ideas. The feedback is immediate. The messages can also be recorded for future use. I can save a document that my friend sent to me, right? Or I can record my friend's voice over a call so that I can tell her later, okay, see, you have done this. You're speaking total horrible things. Then it is easier to clarify doubts. It is interactive, as I told you, and it is time saving. So if you remember any 5, it will be enough. Then you have disadvantages of verbal communication. That means if there is a language barrier, if the sender and receiver, they speak in different languages. I speak in Bengali, my opponent speaks in, the receiver speaks in Malayalam. There is an accent difference, a language difference, which can cause misunderstanding. Lengthy messages, they are boring to read. That is also one disadvantage. Like you do not get time to correct your mistakes in spoken messages. If I'm making any mistake here, I can edit it later. But if I'm talking to you face to face, then I cannot correct my mistakes, right? Emotions like anger or tiredness, they show up when you deliver your message. So if you are tired, that will show up. You will not have this excitement, right? Like before the video, I had a very good nap. That is why I'm so energetic in the video. Verbal communication is incomplete without non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication includes your body language, your facial expressions, your gestures. If I talk like this, today we are going to talk about verbal communication. Verbal communication is the art of If I speak like this, it will be not effective. I have to use this facial expression, these gestures, so that this non-verbal communication I have to use so that you understand the verbal communication. Now we come to mastering verbal communication. First is you have to think before you speak. You get a topic of a debate, first you're thinking, okay, this points I'm going to tell you. Jot down those points. You plan a structure, like first I'm going to say this point, to that point I'm going to say this point, to that point I'm going to say this point. So you think about the topic, you structure your points correctly, you jot down the points somewhere. Then second step is to be concise and clear. Like you have to speak clearly, loudly. You do this. Can you hear anything? Can you literally hear anything? No. So you have to be loud, you have to be clear, and you have to go at moderate speed. You have to stay to the point. You cannot deviate from the point. Then you have to maintain your confidence and your body language. You have to be confident. Keep your eye with the audience. You have to be straight, attentive. You have to maintain a good body posture. Your facial expressions, your gestures, everything should be on point. You have to move on to non-verbal communication. Here the thoughts, the feelings, the attitude, the emotions, they're communicated with the receiver without using spoken words. When you communicate without words to express your thoughts and feelings, that is non-verbal communication. It includes facial expressions, it includes gestures, your hand movements, your body posture, your eye contact with the audience, your proximity, paralanguage, haptics. Last 3 things maybe you did not understand. Ask the God! So 60 to 70% of your communication is non-verbal. Facial expression. Facial expression means this movement of facial muscle that you are seeing. It shows your true emotions and feelings. Face is the most expressive part of the body. So even without words, our emotions can be understood. Then you have 6 basic facial expressions. That is happiness. Okay, that was creepy. Happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust. Have you seen the movie Inside Out? If you have seen the movie Inside Out, you can see all this happiness, sadness, anger, fear. Surprise was there, I don't remember. Disgust was there, the green one. Body language includes your hand movements, your head movements, your arms position. Like putting your arm in pockets is apparently uncool. It seems cool, but apparently it shows that you're nervous. Your body movement, your overall physical behavior, that is your body language, and it shows your attitude, your confidence, your interest, and your honesty. When I'm putting my hands in my pockets and I'm walking, it actually feels cool. But my mother once told me that you're looking like you stole from someone's house and you're hiding in your pocket. Your face also shows that. So I was like, so if you are like arms crossed, that means you're in a defensive mode. Okay, and you have open palms like this, that means you're imparting, you're giving, you're opening, your openness is shown, your honesty is shown. Then you have nodding. So when my father is also a teacher, when he teaches, he's like, his students is like, that shows agreement or their understanding. Suppose I have this thing. Okay, I'm having this thing, this eye drop. I'm having this thing, I'm doing constantly like this. So that shows nervousness or boredom. Okay, constant fidgeting like this. Like before an important presentation, you're doing this with your pen, that with your pen. So that's called fidgeting. Okay, and that shows that you're nervous or you're bored. Okay, then standing too stiff. Okay, attention pose. We had stand at ease pose. Okay, stand at ease pose. Because that attention pose, that stiffness, it shows your tension or your fear. So you have to maintain a positive body language so that people trust you more instead of a negative body language that shows that you avoid interaction with people. Show that you are open. Okay. Then you have eye contact. Eye contact means the way we use our eyes to communicate. If I'm constantly doing like, so what was I telling? First, I'm fidgeting with my hair a lot. That is a bad point. And secondly, I am constantly looking down, which shows that like I'm afraid to maintain an eye contact. So it shows my weakness. But I have to maintain a eye contact like this with the audience, so that teachers also, they make eye contact with the students so that the students stay attentive. One time the teacher looks down, the classroom has turned into some ancient battleground. So if you do constantly like this, so it shows disrespect or that you're irritated by the receiver, right? Even if you're irritated, you should not show that you're irritated, right? Then constantly blinking a lot. So it shows, it makes the audience. And then you have body posture. That means how we sit, how we stand, how we hold our body. Okay, it reflects our attitude. If I'm sitting like this, it will feel like someone died. I'm very sad. It reflects your attitude. I'm sitting like this and I'm like very confident right now. So it shows my emotional state, that I'm in a fair emotional state right now. If I'm doing like this, so I'm tired, I'm not just in the mood. So that is how body posture, it plays a vital role in people judging you, right? So you have to maintain a positive posture. That means you have to stand or sit straight. Your shoulders have to be relaxed. Your head should be held high. You should avoid slouching. You should avoid leaning too much like this. Then you have appearance. Appearance means your clothes, your cleanliness, your hairstyle, your grooming. Okay, this creates the first impression and it reflects the discipline or the professionalism that you're having. Appearance does not mean that you have to wear expensive clothes. Style your clothes properly, maintain cleanliness, maintain a good hairstyle. Then comes personal space and proximity. That means personal space is the physical distance that we're having or maintaining while communicating. Like if you're standing too close to the receiver, that is highly uncomfortable, and we have to maintain a respectful distance. Not like you're standing 20 feet away from each other. That is also not acceptable. That there's a huge gap. That is also not acceptable. But too close is also uncomfortable. So you have to maintain a respectful distance, because like standing too close can be very offending for certain cultures. And then paralanguage. Paralanguage means how something is said, not what is said. How something is said. So I'm saying fine, it shows that everything is okay. If I say fine, it shows that I'm angry. And if I say fine, so that is showing disappointment. Okay, so same thing I'm telling, but in 3 different tones. So one thing can mean many things with a different tone. with a different speed, with a different loudness, with a different pause. So that is paralanguage. What I'm saying is fine, but how I'm saying fine, that is different. And how something is said, that is only paralanguage. Then you have haptics. Haptics means the communication of using touch. So handshake. If you do handshake, that is haptics, which shows that you're very nice, you're very confident, you're greeting other people. Pat on the back, someone is patting me on my back, so that shows that you're encouraging the other person. Holding hands is another name of care and support. So that is haptics. But haptics is very culture specific. If you hold a man's hand, suppose, it's okay. But if you hold a woman's hand out of nowhere, that is not respectful. So touch is very culture specific. It should be used carefully and respectfully. Okay. So advantages of non-verbal communication: it enhances verbal communication, as we said. It works even without a language. That also I said. It's useful for illiterate or like physically disabled people or differently abled people, like blind, deaf, and all of that. It shows you genuine emotions, right? From your face, the genuine emotions will come out, and then it grabs attention easily. If I'm speaking like a robot, it will not grab your attention. I'm using this big eyes, my hands and all. That is why it's grabbing your attention. And then you have the disadvantages. That means there is high chance of misinterpretation. I'm communicating like this and this and this. My friends might not understand whom I'm pointing to in the other end, right? So there is not always it is accurate and perfect. Then culture dependent meanings, as I said, for haptics, it's very culture specific, and it cannot convey complex. If I'm trying to explain a NLP to you, right? If I'm trying to explain some complex like computer vision or something like that, I cannot use my only non-verbal communication there. It is incomplete. Just like verbal communication is incomplete without non-verbal, non-verbal is also incomplete without verbal. Okay, and it's not suitable for long distance communication, right? Now we come to visual communication, where sending and receiving information, that means communication happens using visual elements like images, symbols, charts, graphs, videos, drawings, right? If I'm presenting this data in a tabular format, it's difficult for you to understand. If I'm presenting this data in the form of chart, it is easier to understand. Okay, so advantages of visual communication: it enhances understanding, saves time, long explanation you have to read. Instead of that, if one image replaces a huge paragraph, it's easier to it saves time, right? And then it's useful for people with language barriers. It makes learning interesting and effective for mass communication, because one visual message can reach thousands of people at once. Then you have disadvantages. It is expensive to design. You need, for like graphical design is a whole separate sector. You need money, you need time, you need skills. It's a time consuming preparation. Like creating effective visuals, it takes longer than speaking. If I just upload this video without any visual, will it be difficult for you to understand? Yes. So that is the thing. And you cannot explain everything, like abstract ideas. Happiness, can you express it in a form of drawing? Yes, you can, but again, you cannot explain everything. And there is risk of misinterpretation also. It's very culture specific as well, and it needs support of other communication forms, because even in a poster you need verbal and written communication. If I just paste a diagram here, will you be able to understand anything? I need to explain along with that. It needs to pair up with verbal communication. Feedback, the reply given by the receiver to the sender. Features of a good feedback are: it should be clear and specific. If I say you did okay, you do not know your positive, negative, anything. You have to say your explanation was clear, but examples were missing. If you say in that way, it is a clear and specific feedback. And then you have to be helpful. You should not insult or discourage other people in the name of feedback. Help the person in the improvement. Then you have to give the feedback at the right. Student's exam is coming near. Instead of helping the student now, you're helping the student after exam. What the great thing will happen? Then you have to be polite and kind instead of insulting or using harsh language. You have to have a respectful tone, which I sometimes forget when I'm teaching my sister because she's just so annoying. Then you have to be authentic. Your feedback must be honest and real. Do not sugarcoat your feedback. Do not praise falsely. You have 5 different types of feedback: specific feedback, non-specific feedback, positive feedback, negative feedback, and no feedback. That's also a type of feedback. Specific feedback means it focuses on particular points only. Your article structure is good, but conclusion is weak. You made mistakes in profit and loss questions. Okay, so this is the most effective type of feedback. Then you have non-specific feedback, like general feedback you're giving. Your work is good. You didn't do well. It's not specific feedback. There is no special direction. The person does not know now what to do. Is it like, okay, what has happened, good or bad, tell something. So you are not providing the clear direction to know what needs to be improved. Okay, then you have positive feedback, which focuses on the strengths and the achievements of the person. You have done an excellent presentation, really loved it, everything was so on point, your voice modulation has improved a lot. So this is a positive feedback. Then you have negative feedback. Negative feedback is not like judgment and all, it's constructive criticism. It highlights the weaknesses, but it should be delivered careful. Otherwise, using too much harshness can damage the person's confidence or self-esteem. So your aim should be improving the person, not insult him. No feedback. No feedback means when receiver does not give any response to the sender, that makes the communication one way, one-sided. You have one-sided love, this is one-sided communication. So when teacher asks any doubts, whole class is silent. No one is telling anything. That is called no feedback. And this is the worst fraud. Now you have the 7 C's of communication. First is clear. That means you have to be completely clear with your message. There should not be any confusion in your message. Because if unclear message goes to the receiver, he will misinterpret the message, and this wastes time and creates a lot of mistakes. So you should avoid using you should avoid giving half information, and you shouldn't assume that the receiver knows everything, right? So you have to be very clear with your message so that the message is easy to understand. Then concise. Concise means saying only what is necessary, staying to the point. Okay, avoid unnecessary or filler words. Okay, then you have to be concrete. That means you have to be concrete with specific facts and figures and examples. Whatever you say, there should be a solid proof to what you are saying. This makes the message trustworthy and reduces understanding. If I'm saying many students failed, what is the proof that many students failed? You have to show that 12 out of 40 students have failed. You have to use facts and figures, data. Okay, then correct. Correct means you have to use proper grammar, proper spelling. You have to give accurate information. You have to use the right level of language. Okay, coherent. Coherent means your ideas should be logically connected to each other. You have to ensure that the message is clearly flowing from the introduction to the conclusion, from start to end. You have to stick to the main topic. Okay, you're giving your random thoughts, you're putting your random 3 a.m. thoughts in the middle of your conversation, so it confuses the receiver. You have to be coherent. Your ideas should be logically connected to each other. It is complete. That means providing all the necessary information. Do not leave your message incomplete. Do not give half information. And answering all the expected questions of the receiver. Next is courteous. Courteous means you have to be polite, you have to be respectful, you have to be honest, you have to be friendly with the receiver, you have to understand the receiver's feelings and respect it. This builds positive relationships. Okay, you have to avoid using harsh and rude language. Now, barriers to effective communication. Barriers means the obstacle, the problem that block or delay the message that is sent between the receiver and the sender. Okay, so anything that prevents the message from being correctly understood, that is the barrier, right? It's the obstacle or the problem. First is physical barrier. That means barriers that arise due to environmental or geographical factors. Okay, like noise, it can disrupt the communication. Poor lighting, extreme temperature, AC is in 16 degrees Celsius, so too hot or too cold can also disrupt. Poor infrastructure, long distance, different time zones, so that is a physical barrier. Okay, like an online class disturbed due to a network issue. Okay, so the receiver loses interest, message remains incomplete, right? Then linguistic barrier, that means when the receiver and the sender do not share the common language, okay, they speak different languages. So that is one misinterpretation, confusion, this all happens, okay, like an English speaker is not able to communicate in Japan, so that is the language barrier. Then is interpersonal barrier, that means the barriers that arise due to personal feelings, emotion, or psychological issues, okay, like lack of willingness to communicate or not feeling like speaking, anxiety, shyness, nervousness, lack of emotional connection. I cannot talk to my father properly if I'm not deeply connected to my father, right, or my parents, right? So that is interpersonal barrier. Then you have organizational barrier, that means that happens in workplaces due to structure, hierarchy, rules and policies. You directly cannot communicate to the, because of too many levels of hierarchy, you directly cannot communicate to the manager. You have to communicate with this person first, he will allow for permission, then you have to go to other person, then he will allow. So that is organizational barrier. That means poor infrastructure or strict rules or procedures, fear of seniors, delay in approvals, that is organizational barrier. This creates fear and hesitation, low efficiency of work, like employees, they're afraid to share ideas. This is organizational barrier. Then you have cultural barrier, that happens due to difference in beliefs, social standards, traditions, customs, all of this. You are I'm a Bengali girl, and suppose my friend is from Bihar. He likes litti chokha, I'm not liking litti chokha. He does not like dal bhat mach bhaja or something like that. So that is a cultural barrier. So it happens due to different cultural backgrounds, stereotypes or prejudices, different meanings of gestures. So in some country maybe this means no and this means yes. I got confused saying that. So that is cultural barrier, right? So how to overcome these barriers? You have to use simple and clear language, use gestures more, okay, take help of translators so to avoid language barrier, use gestures more so that actually people can try to understand that what you're telling. Avoid assumptions. Oh, मुझे लगता है इसको कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. Let's say this. Now he is offended. Now what will you do? So avoid assumptions. Do face-to-face communication. Be respectful and open-minded. Okay, create a comfortable environment so that people can speak. If you are speaking with a person in a dark room, he will be afraid. Why is he talking to me in a dark room? So maintain your lighting, ventilation, seating. Create a friendly atmosphere so that you can communicate easily. This is how you to prevent language barrier. Now let us come to know what is a sentence. Sentence means a group of words which are arranged in a proper manner so that it makes a complete sense. Okay, now what is the difference between a sentence and the phrase? Sentence is a group of words that make sense, complete meaning it makes, but phrase means a group of words that does not make a complete sense. It can be used in a sentence to make a complete sense. Okay, so if I say Nimisha is going to school, that is a proper sentence, but went to school, that is a phrase. Went to school can be used in a sentence to make a, so phrases can be used in a sentence to make a complete meaning. Okay, now what are the rules to write a sentence? It should have a meaning, it must begin with a capital letter, must end with a full stop, question mark, semicolon, something like that, exclamation mark, and it must have one subject and one verb. Okay, sentence has three parts: subject, verb and object. So subject means the person who is doing the job. Okay, verb means the action, what is being done, okay, tells what the subject is doing. Then you have the object which receives the action. So he drove a brand new car, he is the subject, drove is the verb, and what is being drived, the car. So brand new car is the object. Okay, now there are two types of object: direct object and indirect object. Direct object means answers what or whom. So if I say Peter doesn't like Max, Peter doesn't like what? Max. So that's direct object. But if I'm having indirect object, she made a cake for her friend, she made a cake what? you answer, she made a cake, what? But Peter doesn't like maths. Peter doesn't like what? Maths. That is a direct object. When you cannot answer what, then that is indirect object. Okay, like she made a cake for her mother. For her mother is indirect object, and indirect objects, they usually have to or for. Okay, so if you say he wrote a letter to his friend is going to be the indirect object, and it answers to whom or for whom, because to and for is added. Okay, now you have types of sentences. This everyone knows. Declarative sentence states a fact or opinion and it ends with a full stop. Okay, I have a beautiful dress. That is a declarative or assertive sentence. Then you have imperative sentence. It is an order or a request or a command. Go outside. That is imperative sentence. And please help me with this work. That is also imperative sentence. It's a request. So request, order or command, that is imperative sentence. Then interrogative sentence, that means a question. Okay, so it ends with a question mark. Are you scared of dogs? How will you go home? All of these are interrogative sentences. Then you have exclamatory sentences, and they show strong emotion, surprise, joy, sudden excitement. So it ends with exclamation mark. So you say, wow, such a beautiful dress. That is exclamatory sentence. Hooray, you have won the match. That is also an exclamatory sentence. So these were the 4 types of sentences. Now you have active and passive sentences. Okay, that is the voice of the word. So if I'm saying the active sentence, the subject performs the action. Okay, subject performs the action. So it's subject plus verb plus object. That means Shweta is eating chocolate. Rohin changed his phone cover. But if I'm doing chocolate is being eaten by Shweta, phone cover is being changed by Rohin, that is passive voice. That means the subject receives the action, object does the action here. Okay, so it is object plus verb plus by plus subject. Chocolate is eaten by Shweta. It reverses. Paragraph is a group of sentences. So sentence is a group of words. Paragraph is a group of sentences which focuses on a single idea or a theme. One paragraph for one theme. Then if you want to change your theme, then you go for another paragraph. Okay, and the structure of a paragraph is usually like this. There is an introductory sentence, then you have supporting sentences like the body and all, where you give your details and examples. Then you have the conclusion sentence, ending idea. So if I'm saying water is the essential component of life, this is the introductory sentence, and then you have the whole paragraph is related to water then. Okay, so every paragraph must begin on a new line, and you've seen the first line, it has indentation. You have 3 fingers gap or something like that. So the first line has indentation. All sentences, they have one central idea. If the paragraph is about water, all sentences are going to be about water, and the sentences must be logically connected with each other. Then you have capitalization. Capitalization means writing certain letters in uppercase. Rules of capitalization, all of you know this. Beginning of sentence, first letter should be of capital letter. Proper nouns, India, Lahore Gate, Shinjini, my name, everything should be of capital letter. Days, months, holidays, Christmas, Eid, Holi, Sunday, June, all of this should be having capital letters, should start with capital letters. Now, summer and winter, they cannot start. Then pronoun I is always in capital letter. Then directions when referring to places, they should be in capital letters. I'm traveling to the south. So that is south should be in capital letter. But if I'm saying turn southwards, that should not be in capital letter. That is talking about the freaking literal direction. But when I'm saying I'm traveling to the south, that means to the south of India when referring to place, right? Then it's also used before the titles, before names like Mr. Singh, President Patel, Captain Kohli. Punctuation marks, they show the pause, like where do you need to pause in the sentence, so it avoids confusion. Like as I said, let's eat grandma. Let's eat grandma. So do you understand the importance of a comma? So important punctuation marks are full stop, which is used at the ends of the sentences or in abbreviations like Mr. Sharma. Then question mark. It's used at the end of questions. Exclamation mark, used at end of exclamatory sentences, like, or at the end of interjections, like wow, what a match. Okay. Then comma, to separate items in a list, to separate adjectives, or when you're writing dates, like August 4, 2025, right? Then you have apostrophe. Apostrophe, first it is used for contraction. I am. This can be written as am. It is also used to show possession, like Ritika's bag. There also apostrophe is used. So it shows the possession, that the bag is possessed by Ritika. Then you have parts of speech. First is noun. Noun, we all know it refers to a person, place, thing, or an idea. Like Goa is beautiful. Goa is a noun. My pen is broken. Pen is a noun. Common noun, proper noun, abstract nouns. Many type of nouns you have. Then you have pronoun. Pronoun means it's used in place of noun to avoid repetition, right? Like he, she, it, they. This all are pronouns. Then you have verb. Verb is the action that is done by the subject, right? Like run, eat, play, as, are, was. All of these are verbs. Then you have adverb. Adverb means it describes a verb or an adjective or another adverb. He runs quickly. Runs is already a verb. It describes how he is running quickly. She never lies. So how often does she not lie? Never. So that is how it describes other verbs and nouns and adjectives, okay? And then you have adjective. Adjective describes a noun, right? I am wearing a beautiful sari. So the sari is the noun, and how beautiful, and what is the sari? Beautiful. So describes the noun, that is adjective. Then you have conjunction, which joins words or phrases or sentences like and, but, yet, they, right? We all know. Then you have preposition, which shows the relationship between a noun and a pronoun, like the cat is under the table, okay? Then you have interjection. Interjection means a sudden feeling. It's an exclamation, okay? Like, oh, wow, alas, sorry, like this, okay? Sorry, hooray, okay? Then you have articles. Articles come before noun to show whether something is specific or it is general. Articles are of two types: definite article, indefinite article. Definite article means the, when something is specific or known. This is the India Gate. This is specific and this is known, right? The sun is bright. The sun, everyone knows the sun, right? That is why. Indefinite articles, when something is unknown or very common, okay? A is used before A or whatever. It's used before a consonant sound, not a consonant letter. It's used before a consonant sound, okay? Like a book, a game. And it is used before a vowel sound, not letter. Like an apple and an hour. Just because hour is having H, we cannot put, because we are referring to the vowel sound. So it's hour. It has a O sound. So O is a vowel, right? A-I-O-U. So this was our whole chapter completed. Communication skills. Our whole chapter is completed. Let me know if you have any doubt. You shouldn't have any doubt because this chapter is makhan. Easy. Very easy. That's it. I'll meet you in the next video. Till then, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep exploring. Thank you and bye-bye.